So yesterday I developed quite a bit more of my Chipping Sparrow. I painted the feathers of the wings and the mantle and the tail, and I worked on the face quite a bit. And unfortunately, the video of that seems to have disappeared into cyberspace. So I apologize for that, but I can't really go back. So I'm going to continue developing the bird from where it is now. So where I left off yesterday, I was going to develop the series of overlapping feathers that are in this region here that currently looks like a single feather. And for this, I'm going to use the ultramarine blue burnt sienna mix that I've used for quite a bit of the painting so far. I'm going to mix up a nice liquid pool of this. I'm using the well that I pre-mixed that's 50-50, a little on the brown side. I have two different wells of the same mixture, but this one here is on the blue side, whereas this one here is on the brown side. And for this particular, for the plumage on the bird, the brownish mixture is more appropriate. Alright, that's looking pretty good. I'm using a big brush here just because it'll carry a lot of water. I'm not actually going to use that for the painting. I'm kind of torn between using a rigger and using my palette knife. I have this palette knife here, which I've prepared to use similar to a pen. I'll demonstrate it on my perch here. To use this, I have to have a pretty wet pool of paint, and I'd use it much like a pen. I hold it between my fingers like this, and when I touch down, it's going to release a big blob, so it's a good idea to touch it down on the border, and then I come back here, creates a nice thin line. It's a little heavier where I touch it down, and it doesn't hold a lot of paint, as you can see, so I have to recharge it regularly. But it's a way to create fine lines and straight lines, because it's a because it's a knife. It has it's much easier to make a straight line than it is to make a curved line. If you make a curved line, it's likely to sort of drag paint into the belly of the curve, and it really doesn't work all that well, which is why I'm thinking about using a rigger for the feathers here, because there is a bit of a curve to them. I think I will use this since I've got it here. I've got it all charged up, but what I'm going to do is just use it for the ends of the feathers closest to the tail. So that was a little out of control there. I think it'll be all right. To prepare a, actually I don't really like that. think I will see if I can lift that. Just using the corner of my paper towel to give me as much control as possible. Yeah, that's better. To prepare a palette knives are really more associated with opaque pigments, opaque painting media like oils and acrylics, where they're used for impasto and techniques that are totally foreign to watercolors. So they don't really lend themselves out of the box to being used the way I'm using them. And I got this technique from a book called The Watercolorist Essential Notebook by Gordon MacKenzie. An excellent book. I use it a lot. I learned an awful lot from it, and in the classes that I've taught, I've referred to it a lot. I actually bought a couple copies of it because I was using it in my classes so much. It was good to have a second copy so that I could pass both copies around to my students. Anyway, in order to, you can see that I've switched off to my rigger. This is a 5/0, quite a small rigger. Again, I'm touching down on the border so that I don't end up with a big glop of paint where I start, and I can pull out a nice fine line, and I'm holding this much like I did the palette knife, so that I can use my hand and arm together to draw back a nice straight line. So I'm not painting with just my hand, I'm actually painting with my whole arm and pulling it towards me, which helps me to control the straightness of the line. Back to my palette knife story. In order to prepare a palette knife to be able to carry watercolors, it has to be scuffed. You have to sand off the shiny finish of the blade. And here I also reshaped this. This was originally a circular end, and I've reshaped it to look more like a butter knife, which gives me a variety of curves, mostly for scraping. If I want to use this for scraping, I have either a fairly shallow curve here to scrape a fairly large area, or if I rotate it more vertically, I can get a finer and finer curve. All right, so there I've painted in my overlapping feathers. I'm pretty happy with that. I really don't have as many as there are in the photograph, but I doubt that people will look at it that closely. Yeah, there is one more that I can do here, actually. There's a shadow line right here, which I didn't paint in. Better. All right, so now I've got the feathers fairly well developed. I think I finished my story with the palette knife. If I didn't, I highly recommend that you pick up a copy of Gordon MacKenzie's book. Again, it's the Watercolorist Essential Notebook. He also has the Watercolorist Essential Landscapes, I think it is. He's got a couple of different books out. I haven't seen the landscape one, but I'm sure it's equally good. But the Watercolorist Essential Notebook, I highly recommend it. And he has a lot of tips about masking in there as well, which are also make the book very useful, very, very beneficial. So look that book up if you have any interest in it. Now I'm working on creating some separation between the major feather groups by painting shadow lines. I missed a feather right here. I also missed a feather down here. And then going back to a cooler gray, I'm going to use the Da Vinci Payne's gray here. I actually have a similar layered series of feathers similar to this right in this area here. This currently looks like just a single feather, but it's really not. It's actually looks like about 3 overlapping feathers there. And I think I'm going to use my rigger. I said this was a 5/0, it's actually a 1. It's a low Cornell number 1, but it is quite a fine rigger. And again, riggers are they're also called liners. They were developed for painting tall ships, the rigging on tall ships, hence the name. I need to be careful to keep my fingers out of the wet paint that I just painted. Not making a very straight line here. That's okay. That's all right. Not the best job I've ever done, but it's not terrible. Those are a little dark, so I'm going to lift a little. I think I'll let it dry, and then I'm going to do a wash of clear water over it to sort of blend those lines together and tone them down a little bit. All right, I'm going to end this here so that I can save this video so that I don't lose it again, and I will be back.